Hey everybody, this is Claire from Utley Designs. Today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to bind a circular rug.
These are the tools that you need in order to be able to bind your rug. Here I have 2-inch rug binding, a pair of scissors, some linen thread and a large eyed needle that the thread will go through. This is all you need to complete this job. This is one of my designs that I've just finished, and as you can see I haven't cut the canvas away yet. I'm going to do that job now, and I shall be trimming it away, leaving about 1 inch all the way round the rug to fold under, that then the binding will cover. Here you can see I've got a nice large pair of scissors, and I'm just going to trim around my rug like so, all the way around. You don't need to include the selvage on your canvas because that's actually quite hard to stitch around. I've still got plenty of a gap around there. You can see now that I have finished cutting all the canvas off around the rug. You can see that I'm working my way around the canvas, and you'll have little pleats in the canvas as you go in order to form your circle. You don't want to distort your circle because then that will spoil the look of the rug when you flip it over. It's very easy because the canvas is quite happy to be folded, as you can see, and then just press down into a little pleat and you just work your way all the way around your rug like this until you have finished. Here I have folded over the edges on all the rug now, so you can see it's all folded over, and if I flip it over you can see that it's still kept its nice circular shape, and when that is bound it's going to sit nice and flat and protect the underside edge of your rug. I'm going to start sewing the binding on now. I've threaded up my needle. I think it's about 150 centimetres long. I wouldn't have it any longer because you'll get knotted, and if you're not happy about working with a long length, then do it with a short length. It's just so that I don't have to keep rethreading my needle all the time. Start off with the outside edge of your binding and just catch your binding first with some anchor stitches, some neat little anchor stitches, just to get us started. Okay, you see I'm just doing it through the binding at the moment, and now I've got a good anchor stitch, and now I'm going to start stitching around my rug. And what I do is I catch the canvas just a little bit underneath and let my needle slide through and leave a reasonably large gap between there. It's about maybe 2 centimetres, so that on this side you only have a little stitch and then a longer stitch hiding in between the canvas and the yarn. It doesn't come through, you are not going through to this side, it does not come through, it sits in between the layers, and you're going to stitch all around the edge of your rug like this. And as you can see there's just tiny little stitches showing every 2 centimetres apart, and you're going to stitch like this around the entire length, the circumference I should say, because it's a circular rug, all the way around. Keep stitching all around your binding, keep as close to the edge as you possibly can so that it is meeting where you did your last knots, so that there is no canvas showing. That gets a little bit trickier as you come to a curve, but it is possible to just tuck it in as you go along. Now your little pleats, you'll just be able to stitch over those as you go around, and we'll be covering those up when we go on to the inside edge, which I'm going to show you next when I finish this bit. As you can see I'm about halfway round now. The binding sits nice and flat round the edge, but as you can see it does this as we're going along. That's just there because obviously it's a circle and it forms gathers. I'm going to rectify that when we come to the end. I'm nearly at the end now, so you can see that the binding is going to overlap, so we can trim that now It just needs to overlap by just over an inch or so. When you get to this point and you're nearly at the edge of your binding, just fold under the raw edge so that that does not fray. Just tuck it under, and then you can carry on stitching along this edge, and then that's that side done. Right, you can see we're at the halfway stage now. I have stitched the binding all the way on the outer edge with a nice neat running stitch, catching the canvas and the yarn as I've gone along and hiding the binding, hiding the canvas underneath the binding. There we go. You can see where I've stitched around the edge of the rug here, and you can see where it lays like it's puckered, but we're going to, as I said, we're going to gather that in as we go along. I'm now going to stitch along where we turned the binding under to cover the raw edge that joins the two ends together. You do this with just a couple of little anchor stitches to start with, just like that, and then we are just going to catch just the binding. We don't need to go through to the rug, just some little catching stitches just to secure those together like that and to the end, and then again just finish off with a couple of little anchor stitches, and that's that bit. For this part, I want you to just lay the end of your thread at one particular point on the rug, and then just quickly measure around your rug a circumference with your thread. It's just rough, you're just going around the rug, you just want a rough idea of how long to cut your thread, and then obviously just add a little bit to that just in case, and cut it there. So this is going to be a long piece of thread that you're going to be working with, but you'll understand what I mean in a moment, because we're going to gather all along the edge of the rug. Once you have threaded your needle, pull it so that it's almost double, so you don't have the entire length to work with. Then start where your join is with, again, the very useful little anchor stitches. Oops, pulled it out there. Notice it's such a long thread, you've got to get to the end where it's, and then be careful as you get there. At this point it can get a little bit knotty, but usually those just pull out with a gentle tug. I think I'll just put one more in there just to be sure. There, we've got our anchor stitch. We're going to do now a nice little neat running stitch all the way around the edge of the rug. At this point it is not being attached to the canvas, it's just a running stitch all the way around your rug. Remember to ease your thread through as you go along, and hopefully it won't get into too much of a knot. If it does, like I've got one there, give it a bit of a tug and they usually just pop out. So I want you to keep going all the way around the edge of the rug until we get back to this point again. You can see now that I've reached the end. I have done a nice running stitch all the way around the edge of the binding. Now you'll find that you can pull the thread and gently ease the thread through the binding so that you have a nice soft gather around your rug. This means that when you turn your rug over, it sits nice and flat, and there are no hard bits of the binding that are going to wear through on your rug and spoil the way it sits. Some people like to pleat the binding as they go around, just like we pleated the binding. But I feel if you've pleated the binding and then you pleat, if you pleat the canvas and then pleat the binding as well, then you've got double the amount of hard lines that are going to show through on your rug. And I have found that this way works the best. Once you have eased it up and you're happy with the way it is lying, finish it off with a couple of our very useful anchor stitches. Right, this is the final part now. I've done a couple of little anchor stitches again into the inside edge of your binding. and this one is actually going to attach that edge to your rug. And because you've done this easing in with the soft gathers, it's going to hopefully just go flat as you stitch along. I want you to just put a little stitch in, it'll go through the yarn and the canvas, a similar stitch to the way we did it before, just pushing through. It's fairly easy the way it goes through, a little stitch on the top, a longer one underneath, just scooping up both the canvas and the yarn as we go along, just like that, through the nice soft gathers, so there shouldn't be any lumps. And you're going to go all the way along the edge like this, easing those gathers in as you go along, and do this around the entire edge of the rug, making sure you do not go through to the front of your rug, just through the canvas and the yarn. Right, I've finished stitching all the way around now. I'm just going to do a couple of little anchor stitches to finish it off, and that is your rug finished. Now if you want to, at this point you can snip out the gather stitch that you put in carefully without catching your other stitch, but mine looks pretty neat, so I'm going to leave it there because it's fine, it's not doing any harm, but you can remove it if you want to. Here you can see the finished rug. It's laying nice and flat and it's got a lovely round edge to it. I'm really pleased with the result, and I hope this video has been of help to you.